last one, and then he got voted out the next.
Was
time.
that really his name, Johnny Fairplay?
Yeah, there was. I remember.
There was a Johnny Fairplay.
I think I was watching when Johnny Fairplay. Was
Johnny Fairplay was like in the first 10 seasons, and he actually, when people used to come and visit, he made it to that point, and he had the person tell him that his grandmother died, even though she didn't.
There you go.
Really?
Just for sympathy. Yeah.
We are live.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what to say. We're live. Hello, Pittsburgh. Welcome to the book.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Sports Porch Pittsburgh. We are live. We are live all over the internet. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram on the left-hand side here. So welcome, Instagram. Thanks for being here.
Let's go.
We are live on Radio PGH right now. Radio PGH, I'm going to drop a comment. If you're in the car, don't stream us live and watch while you're driving. Stream us live on Radio PGH.
It's great how you save lives.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Yes.
We care about our fans. We do. We don't want them dead.
And no, because then the obvious thing would be that
They couldn't watch our show anymore.
Exactly. And we dropped the podcast right after the show.
Not from this.
Right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your freaking podcasts. So how's your week been, guys?
Whew, that's a tough question.
I was waiting for Mark to say
Monday fun day.
It's Monday.
Monday fun day.
All right. So what are we going to do? Well, of course, if you've tuned in here, and we thank you for being here, this is all Pittsburgh sports all the time. Follow the YouTube channel. Hockey Jesus is on the YouTube channel. He's in the house right here, right across from me. That's Steve. That's the Grand Schwabini right here. I'm your technical director. We're going to talk a little hockey. We're going to talk Penguins. We're going to talk Krausen on Instagram says he lives in California but misses my Pittsburgh, born and bred. I didn't know you owned Pittsburgh, Krausen, but hey,
congratulations.
It's a good place. It's a good place.
You've done a good job with the place.
You have. And of course, you can always catch the website, theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com.
Yes. So here's what I want to do tonight. The first thing I want to do actually is I just want to do some quick NFL stuff.
Sure.
We have a Philadelphia sports show. This is the Grant Schwabini from the Sports Porch Philadelphia. So we were talking about rankings of quarterbacks, and I actually have to give credit to the Fan on this because I heard about this site on the Fan and how and this quarterback list and how ridiculous it was because they put Jalen Warren or Jalen Hurts 17th on the list
and Anthony Richardson 16th.
Anthony Richardson 16th. But what I was more interested in,
yeah, for real.
What I was more interested in, fellas, is to go down and find where Kenny Pickett was. Okay,
that's fun.
And they do have Kenny Pickett ranked, I believe, appropriately. So I think this is going to be a short segment. 31st, and the only quarterback he's ranked above is Bailey Zappi of the Patriots. And he's right below, though. This is the one that got me. He's actually ranked below Aiden O'Connell for the Las Vegas Raiders. Thoughts on that at all? Just because there's so many Justin Fields rumors and all this other BS going around there. You know, I think this guy, for as ridiculous as a list he put up there with like Aaron Rodgers 15th, Anthony Richardson 16th, and then Jalen Hurts 17th.
Right.
He got the Kenny Pickett part right, 31st. And
I don't know.
Seems even a little harsh by my standards.
I don't know that he's the second worst in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, because
I think so.
Well, if you think about it, there were probably like 5 or 6 backup quarterbacks starting at the end of the year. I mean, I don't know.
It seems a little harsh, I think, by that standard.
Well, I mean,
the problem you have is we don't know everybody on that list. I assume he just picked a quarterback from each team, and that team. But to Mark's point, there were a lot of quarterbacks who had 2 or 3 quarterbacks play for them.
Right.
So does that mean like Bailey Zappi was on a list, but Mac Jones probably isn't even on the list, right?
No, he's not. He's considering starting quarterbacks. Yeah. He considers all of these guys.
So that means Garoppolo's probably not even on the list because he didn't play enough last year.
Sam Howell is 29th. Will Levis. Right. You're right. Deshaun Watson is 27th. Desmond Ridder.
I mean, in what's the criteria? Is it just stats? I mean, because you have to me, a quarterback is about wins first and then statistics second.
Right.
So I think he's better than Will Levis from that standpoint.
So far.
Just from a wins-loss standpoint, I think he can win more games than Will Levis can, but I think Will Levis can probably throw a better ball than he can.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's the problem with these lists. It's like subjective to the point where, well, what do you want to grade? Like, right. And if he was grading,
Anthony
grading
Richardson played like 4 games last year.
Right.
Yeah. So how's he get up there?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a dumb list, and I think to follow any list is probably sus, as the kids say.
Suspect.
Okay, so it's sus. So we'll just forget about it. We'll forget about it. Hey, listen, guys, we dropped the podcast right after the show, so if you need to catch up, you can subscribe on anywhere you get your podcasts. And okay, Hockey Jesus has some things to say. The Pens beat the Flyers 7-6 yesterday. It was did you not almost have a heart attack during that game?
I did several times.
Yeah. You know what? There is obviously a huge difference between you and I and our expectations for the season. Because when I was listening to the Hockey Jesus last night, and when the Flyers tied it up 4-4 and you slammed your notebook.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I had a speck of emotion the entire game.
All right. Well, first I want to let everybody know that Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast after every single Penguins game without fail, and you can catch that podcast actually on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere, but also on YouTube. So you can see his pretty mug up there, worshiping the Penguins and bringing Penguins disciples into the fold after every single Penguins game. And you're off to a good start. I think the background looks good. I think we got to get the mic straightened out a little bit. I think there's something weird going on there, but
I'll just take this one. This one seems to work just fine.
All right, great. You can take this one with you. So preach, Hockey Jesus. Tell us what you think about what's going on here. There's so many things going around, but I actually have to give you props because today on where was I listening? Somebody was talking on some radio station today about, the upcoming trade deadline.
Yeah.
And DG's in the house. What's up, DG? That game aged me. A last minute tie would not have surprised me. But what they said is this is starting to hit the national media now because 3 big hockey guys that are hockey insiders in the national media as of this past weekend just started reporting that maybe the Penguins would consider trading Jarri. And I thought, Hockey Jesus talked about that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was over that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's because they need scoring.
Right.
The reason I said that was you have to look at your team's strengths. And the Penguins team strengths, not last night, but the Penguins team strength, if you look at their statistics, is their goaltending. They have 2 goaltenders that anybody would love to have as a backup or as a tandem starter for a team who needs a goalie, like the Devils, for example. If the Devils had a goalie, I think that, you would think of them differently as opposed to maybe, the mushy middle, as it's called, where I think the Penguins are now, to maybe a contender to where, like, the Rangers and Carolina sit right now, and Boston, for that matter, and Florida's really good. Like, Florida probably could even use a goalie too. And if they had a goalie like Bobrovsky played last year, they're scoring at a better pace than last year. So, that's why I said it. It makes the most sense. But nobody was thinking it because they think, well, Jarri signed. The Penguins are stuck with him. The Penguins didn't want to sign him to a 5-year contract. And the Penguins aren't going to be good again until after Jarri's gone. So the reality is you try and get things for him now, and you don't lose that much in the short term. That's the delicate balance that the Pittsburgh Penguins have right now, is you have to continue to win, but yet you have to trade off some pieces that makes you think you're looking towards the future. And that's why I was for Jarri and not necessarily for Gensel. I'm still not convinced that Gensel's the right guy to be traded. Just because I think they can find a way to sign him with the cap going up $4 million next year. I think they can find a way to do that because they're not going to have Carter. I've been through this before, so I don't want to repeat myself. But I just think that if they do trade him, they got to get at least something in return, which means somebody who can play now. Maybe not necessarily on the top 6, but somebody who could play on the top 6 next year or the year after that. And they have to get another draft pick because, like you guys were talking about on the Philly porch, you never know what's going to happen with draft picks. I was looking at a trade the Penguins made when they traded Paul Coffey away from the Penguins after they used him to win 2 cups. They got nobody for him when he went to the Kings, and they got a first round, and they got a prospect. And I can tell you, I looked at the names. I don't think they ever played a single game for the Penguins. So you have to really guard against that. You have to be absolutely convinced that the guy you're getting. Look, when they traded, the last guy that they traded of this stature would be Jordan Staal, right? And who did they get for him? Brian Sutter. Brian Sutter was terrible for the Penguins. He was not good for the Penguins. But they did get Brian Dumoulin in a throw-in, who was the prospect. And look how many games he ended up playing for the Penguins. Right. 600, 500, 600 games. Right. Won 2 Stanley Cups as a throw-in. So it's not necessarily about the guy that you're getting for the guy. It could be the prospect that could be the one that you really are excited about. So, but I think with somebody like Jarri, I think you easily get a first-round pick. And then you can make a decision about Ned. And everybody's talking, I don't know anything about this guy, this Bloomquist that's down in the minors. Yeah. Don't know anything about him.
They like him, though.
But if they like him, then he's got to be pretty impressive and willing to probably bring up next year should they deal Jarri. And
Cal Peterson's available.
He was pretty good yesterday.
So is Carter Hart.
He was pretty good.
Yeah. So that's I think that's the deal with Jarri. I mean, as far as the game last night, it was heart attack city. I mean, I just get so wrapped up in these games. I don't get too terribly excited when they get up by 2 goals, just like I don't get terribly excited when the other team scores the first goal. It's when it's like 2-1, and then I'm like, okay, the next goal matters. And then they tie it up, and you're like, shit, I'd rather them see them go up 3-1 in the second period than tied 2-2, going into the second period. And then when they were up 4-2, I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's just get to the end of the period and I'll feel better. And then shit happened.
Yeah. Next thing you know, it's 6-6 and right.
But there are some positive things. I mean, the amount of goals they scored in the last 5 games, the fact that they've gotten 7 points out of the last 10 in their last 5 games. It's a good trend, but we're so far behind. I know if you look at it and you're like, well, if you do the math, they have 4 games on hand on the Flyers. So if they win all of them, then they're in the spots.
Yeah, but they have to win all of them.
Yeah, no, you don't win all of them.
Right.
That's number 1. And number 2 is there are 2 other teams that's in front of them right now. Yeah. The Capitals and the Devils. So, I mean, they got to jump over those guys too. They did manage to jump over barely by 1 point, the Islanders. So they did jump in front of them since this time last week, which is good. That's what you want to do. You have to continue to make those progressions. But it really puts Dubas in a tough position for the trade deadline. I think he would rather trade like somebody like Raquel or Riley Smith. And then that way he could free up some cash. And these aren't guys that aren't popular. Look, they're also thinking about still putting fans in the seats. They still got to sell tickets.
Yes.
And if they get rid of Jake, that's one less fan that everybody knows.
Yeah,
right?
people come to see Jake.
And they're not going to be like, oh, what's that new prospect's name? Jim Smith. Yeah, they're not going to warm up the Jim Smith unless he scores 3 goals.
Now everybody's going to think the Penguins have a prospect named Jim Smith.
I did read an article today saying that they were going to look to get rid of Raquel and Smith to free up cap space to sign Gensel.
Yeah, that would be that, to me. I think that's the smarter thing to do. I think.
Here, let me help you with the microphone.
I think that's the smarter thing to do. But I mean, look, you can get a ton in return for Gensel.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
And notice I haven't even said, well, what does Sid feel about it? they know what Sid feels about this.
Do we really know what Sid feels about it? I mean, it's a business.
We don't need to know.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's a business.
The man making the transaction needs to know, so he knows how to deal with that moving forward. And Sid's already said he's here for life. He wants to be here for life. So I don't think that there's really anything to worry about on that. And look, they're starting to score without Jake in the lineup.
Right.
So they do have capable players that Sid can play with. Now, I don't know what's going on with this Rust injury. I saw that Jake's going to make the West Coast trip. I'm hoping that means Rust is also on the West Coast trip. So if those two guys are on the trip, at least, that's signaling to me that I think they're probably still going to be with the team.
So you were talking to us before the show started. Actually, I have a question first. If they're going to make a trade, Jarri or Gensel, in your opinion?
I think it'll be Gensel.
Okay. And what would you do?
I wouldn't trade Gensel or Jarri. I would trade Raquel and Smith, free up cap space, and don't worry about the prospects. Honestly, I mean, I just, at this point, they're so far gone when it comes to that. What's another couple years? I just don't see it. And the reality is, everybody's talking about this Karlsson trade was a bad deal. It's true. He's not been a good fit right away.
Well, that's why it's a bad deal. Right.
He has scored. I mean, he's still a plus guy. Who he plays with really matters. When he plays with Graves, he's terrible. He's absolutely horrible. But when he plays with Pettersson, he's actually pretty damn good. So the question is, maybe they just need to go get a better defenseman for him to play with. They're going to have to sign Pettersson next year. And they thought Graves. I actually think Graves is the bigger problem than Karlsson. He's the lesser player.
Yeah.
So if you can find somebody better to play with, and look, they're playing POJ now. Maybe Ludwig's the guy. Honestly, I think I would rather see them do something more drastic, like bench Graves and play Ludwig, and figure out if that combination works better. I know they'll never do it because of the stupid salary, he commands, and it's like, well, you got all that money sitting on your bench, and nobody wants Graves right now. And I think Graves will probably pan out in the long run, but I can't believe that a guy like that knows how to play with a guy like Karlsson, because he's such a unicorn out there. And Letang plays almost the same way. So he's stuck. If he can't figure out how to play with that guy, you have to bury him either in the bottom pair with Ruhwedel, or you don't play him.
So I think one of the things that we discount as fans, no matter what the sport is when you bring a guy in who's a really great player, you just automatically think he's going to add. Yeah. And, I think in baseball, you have a much better chance of that happening, because baseball is such an individual team sport. It's mano a mano, pitcher versus batter.
Right.
So, and then if he gets hits, then people score.
You don't have to pass the ball to him.
Right.
An individual team sport.
Yes.
Tell us more.
You can quote me on that.
Individual team sport. I like that.
I love how
you can quote me with that.
I think an individual sport would be tennis.
Yeah. But I think you get my meaning.
Golf.
Well, unless you're playing in the Davis Cup.
Yeah.
No, I got what you said.
Yeah,
that's golf.
You got it.
I'll give you my opinion on if I were the Penguins GM, what I would do.
I can't fucking wait to hear.
This is going to be great.
Let's
trade Sidney Crosby.
No, I would.
Please trade Sidney Crosby. Right.
No, in all seriousness, I would do a little bit in the middle of what Steve's saying. I would trade Raquel and Smith to free up cap space for Gensel, and I would trade Jarri.
Yeah, do it
simply because, look, Jarri hasn't been a great performer in the playoffs. He's
never won a playoff series.
No, he's actually been very good in the regular season.
He has,
but he has not played well in the playoffs. So I almost kind of look at it like, and I mean, maybe you wouldn't want to trade him to the Devils, but like the Devils desperately need a goaltender.
No, they would trade him to like Edmonton.
Oh, okay, Edmonton too, right?
Yeah, Edmonton. And by the way, he has history in Edmonton.
Okay.
He's won like some Canadian Cup up there.
Oh, really?
In Edmonton, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like for Jarri, for a desperate team for a goaltender, you could get a first round pick, and you might even get a guy who could like play on a third line or something.
That's what I would like. If I would like them to get like a prospect for him at Edmonton, because there's got to be a winger up there who just can't break the line.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that would be ideal, and I wouldn't be against that. By the way, I would be perfectly happy if they were able to free up some cap space to be able to continue with the Gensel project. And I know Gensel and Jarri are kind of similar, because let's face it, Jake probably has 2 or 3 more peak years, and the way he plays, I mean, he's always in front of the net. He's always getting hit with pucks. He's not a big guy, and he likes to play a big man's game, and that's why he's out, because he got hurt for that reason.
And the Jarri contract, I believe it's a 5-year contract, right?
It is. Yeah. So it's the first year.
So it's really not a good contract, I don't think.
I agree. I mean, that's why I said at the onset of this is it's a good idea to just get rid of him.
So I'm putting something,
he's playing well.
I'm putting something up here that you wanted to talk about during the show. You have some things to say about. Are you trying to gaslight me? I am gaslighting you. That's what I do best. Ask my wife.
Individual team sport.
I'm going to put this up here inside the Penguins. These guys on YouTube. So tell me what your beef is with them. Yeah, because you were getting very emotional. We weren't even. I don't like it when other YouTubers use a guy like Frank Saravelli, who's a known Pittsburgh Penguins hater, and call them an insider. Insiders say that Dubas is making the wrong moves. They should have said a Pittsburgh Penguins hater is saying that the GM for the Pittsburgh Penguins is making a bad move. Right. It's clickbait. And when they do that like that, they're just saying, "Oh, click." And by the way, they got me. So it's probably why I'm a little pissed off about it, because I'm like, "Oh, which insider was that? Was it EJ Radick? Was it somebody that's not
Pierre.
A hater?" Yeah, Pierre Maguire, maybe.
Pierre LeBrun.
No, it's a known Pittsburgh Penguins hater, and that just drives me crazy. I'm going to call that out every time as the hockey Jesus, because it's clickbait and it's ridiculous.
Sacrilege.
Yeah.
There's no clickbait coming from the hockey Jesus.
That much I can guarantee you. Yeah, absolutely. And DG being in the house, I missed his comment. Real quick before we move on here, can Ned handle the load if Jarri's gone? Will Magnus fill in?
I can tell you, David, that Ned's done well in back-to-back games, but you're right. Over the long haul, it's kind of like when Jarri was there, and he was just the backup guy. It was like, can Jarri really play first string when Murray's out? And he really couldn't, not for a while. But let's face it, Ned's been in the game for a little bit. He's just never he doesn't have a lot of miles on his skates either. Right. So I don't know. The answer is no one really knows, and that's why they wouldn't just automatically do it, because they need him. They would need him to play lights out the last 23 games of the season. So that would be a big question mark. But I think Magnus would be fine in the backup role. He's come in the only time he's ever been in a game, and he's won, and he looked good. And plus, he's a different style, so sometimes that throws goalies off, other teams off, when they play maybe one game against a big guy and then the next one against somebody like Ned, who's a little wily. So T Melodia is back on Instagram. Thanks for being here. He said, "Are Yin's going to bitch about the game last night?" You know what? You should have gotten here a little earlier, because he did a lot of bitching about it. And I don't know, T Melodia, you told me you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can go back and watch the Hockey Jesus pontificate on the Penguins game last night. I'm not going to complain. But thanks for being here. I'm not going to complain about a win. Sorry, she. T Melodia. I called T Melodia he. I'm sorry, a she. You got to get I got the pronouns wrong. You can get canceled if you use the wrong pronouns. Let's get that right. I'm not in San Francisco, so I don't think I've got. Well, I will be later this week, and I'll make sure you get canceled. Isn't it a they them?
Is this a they-them situation?
I don't know.
I don't know. Don't ask.
I have no idea. Very glad you're here, though. Thanks for being here.
Let them tell you.
Okay, so Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast after every Penguins game, and also you can subscribe to the Sports Porch on YouTube and catch the Hockey Jesus there after every single game. Thank you so much.
Amen.
I've had it.
I love the likes. I love the subscribing. Let's get some comments going. Let me know how you like my background too.
Yeah,
I've been fiddling with it a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it looks good.
He's a little more light. More light.
I got some lighting that's coming on. My wife happens to be an interior designer.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, I got a little in there.
Oh,
but that's going to happen after the trade deadline.
Some interior design.
And I'm gonna call T Melodia on Instagram. I'm just gonna call her T. So
let's call her T Mel.
T Mel. All right. T Mel
Mel
says she's had it up to her eyeballs with the complainers. So
she's a real ass.
T Mel.
There you go.
Let's go Pens. That's what we're here for. Some positive optimism.
And speaking of wives, Mark was asking me earlier if because I have this.
It's always a touchy subject around
it is. So I have this beautiful postcard of my wife right here, the Pittsburgh property diva.
A little bit lower.
There you go. And she is, of course, the main sponsor of our show. And I like to put that image up. And once again, she's not smiling. So
thank you for sponsoring us, Lauren.
Smiling.
Absolutely.
She
Mark
just doesn't smile with teeth.
Mark asked me.
She's not a toother.
He wants to know, does she have a problem smiling? What's wrong with her teeth? So I figured, there you go, Mark.
There's nothing wrong with
there.
Is
this photoshopped?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. There she is.
It does look a little photoshopped.
There she is.
They look a little too white.
What are you talking about?
White. But then but you and her, you do the Crest White strips.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. She does other things. T-Mel, I'm going to Pittsburgh for the last 2 home games. So excited. Great. Maybe you can hook up with the Hockey Jesus in a friendly sort of way.
kind of like what Brad did. Yes.
So
hey, by the way, shout out to Brad. I know he hasn't been on, but he gifted me some gift cards, and we finally used them the other night.
That's cool.
So I'm going to stop by the strip and send him something.
That's nice.
So,
Hey, Brad,
if you're out there, it's coming your way. Thanks. We had a good night last.
Hey, Brad, I accept gift cards as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there is
to go to the
we do have our number one super fan out there, DG. We do owe DG some kind of surprise here.
Yeah, he hooked us.
We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about that after the. No, he's not going to complain. I promise, T-Mel. I promise.
No complaints about the Pens right now. Keep winning.
Yes.
Everything's good.
So, Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast, the iHeartRadio app, or anywhere you podcast, and catch him on the Sports Porch YouTube. It's the Sports Porch black and gold colors.
I may complain about Graves a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're not good for if it's truly not good, then there's nothing wrong with calling it out.
Yeah.
You just say, I think we get what she's talking about, though. You're general complainers.
Oh, yeah. Well, one for example, there's a gentleman that I follow. It's in our fantasy football,
a gentleman,
group, right?
Yeah,
who will be unnamed at this point, but he likes to complain about
you should name him
a squirrel.
No,
he
likes to complain about the Penguins a lot. Like 1 week Sully's getting fired, the next week Jarri's a terrible goalie, the next week they should trade everybody on the team. And sometimes I agree with him, but it's like there's too much. Like I get it. You're vested. You have emotion in this team because you've been watching them for so long. I love the emotion, but at some point you got to pick a lane. You just can't say, trade everybody, fire everybody, start again.
Yeah.
And then I know he would be there for the rebuild. He wouldn't just cut him loose. But let's face it, there are a lot of fake fans out there,
of course,
who would just cut the whole team loose at that point. So it's a balance, especially in Pittsburgh, where football is king. That hockey has to play that fine line, even though they've been the best franchise that Pittsburgh's seen since the 70s Steelers.
So it sounds to me like this may be more of an anger problem on his side. Maybe there's a substance abuse issue.
We all have.
I was thinking more. This kind of shows the difference between a professional like the Hockey Jesus and an amateur.
Yeah. Well, I'm not professional during many games.
Yeah.
but that's okay.
All right. So remember, catch Hockey Jesus on the podcast and on YouTube. Now we're going to move on to something I'm very, very passionate about, and that is the Buccos, because spring training is gone and the games have started.
Is there a baseball team in this town?
There is. They're called the Pirates.
Oh, okay.
The Buccos report is back.
We've got a lot to talk about, actually.
Do they have an infield? Or
come on, what about the contract?
I do. Here's the thing about that
big contract.
Here's the thing about the Mitch Keller contract.
That's what I want to know.
This is my question to you guys, and to you guys out there. Drop a comment. Is Mitch Keller an ace? Is he now? Look, he's the ace of this staff.
Okay.
All right. Is he an ace? Yeah. Now, they didn't pay him, they didn't break the bank. They made him a rich fella, and they you're right. They committed to him. He stayed. I think it's good. But, his body of work, other than the back half of 2 years ago and the front half of last year, really, where are we going here? We're saddling ourselves with the continent. And listen, all credit to Mitch Keller. I watched him pitch last year. Yep. When the guy was on, he was on.
Yep. He lost it in the middle there.
It's actually, the question actually corresponds to what happened. Probably if you take a really good team in Major League Baseball, Mitch Keller is a 3 or a 4. And he's got potential to be a 2 or a 1, but like right now, you'd call him a 3 or a 4. He just needs to kind of show it more consistently over time.
Right.
But he got paid like a 3 or a 4.
Right. Yeah, that is true.
That's what he got paid.
Yeah.
So really, on the Pirates' behalf, it was a good deal.
Yeah.
It was a very good deal.
Yeah.
Because they could have overpaid for him and gone over $100 million.
Yeah.
And somebody probably would have paid him over $100 million. I think so.
I don't know.
I definitely think so. If think about it this way, if the Phillies could give Taijuan Walker, more than $100 million, they would give Mitch Keller more than $100 million.
You could be right about that. I'm
might have been $80 million.
This is the problem here, and
same thing.
Keller got 70.
Team L's on Instagram talking about Reynolds' contract. Reynolds' contract is stellar, though. It's good. It's a good contract, but I don't know. I look at this team, and last year we got excited because they got off to a great start, even after Cruz got injured. And we're just putting so much faith in, an actual probably number 3 starter who's the staff ace, and so much hope in. I want to see Paul Skeens up here.
Yeah, they got Skeens coming up.
I don't want to see Paul Skeens up here, because when you bring guys like him up here, they get torched. Look what happened to Quinn Priester.
Not if he's
they talked about
special.
Well, that's the point. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of guys who have been special. And
the good news
get torched.
The good news for you is he won't be up until at least May, because they got to get the extra service year in.
I know. Well, I just don't think that's necessary. If you're thinking about the future for real, you're letting that guy, you're leaving him in the minor leagues for a little while. If
not necessarily, when you're the number 1 pick in the draft and you are deemed potentially special,
right?
I think you go down to spring training, and if nobody can hit you and everybody's like, holy Moses, we got one here.
Okay, well maybe that's a good point. I hear you there, but Henry Davis was a very, very special number 1 pick as a catcher and a hitter, and now they don't even want to play him at catcher. And they bring in Grandal, and they're saying, "Oh, he could be the catcher." DG's comment, same old stuff. At least we have a fat guy named Rowdy who's got a chance to hit a few dingers while batting 185. Rowdy. Oh, listen, they brought Rowdy, and I'm convinced that the Pirates now will bring in certain players because of their name and the way they look. Okay,
of course,
because who doesn't fit in better at first base at PNC Park with a bunch of us Yenders down there drinking Arns and eating Permani sandwiches and Quaker steak and lube. Right. Rowdy. I mean, come on, can we put a real team on the field? Can
this is as real as it gets.
I know, and So I'm going to be,
they are taking baby steps, I would say.
Well, that's the thing in the national media. Some of these commentators and these writers have been talking about the fact that they're progressing very, very slowly. Hey, listen, man, I mean, how much slower can it get? It's just
before it hadn't started.
Well, you've got a team who is going to be here we go again. You've got a team who is going to be probably platooning 5 to 7 positions on the field: catcher, first base, second base, right field, left field, and center field. There's 6 of the 9 positions.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. And when you have a team filled with platoons, you go nowhere. Here's another thing that I think is very interesting. Jack Swinsky. You guys all know how I love his bat.
Yep.
Strikes out a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My opinion is the reason that he strikes out is they don't leave him in the lineup. They don't let him play every day. He is the fastest player in Pirates history as a rookie to come up through the system to the major league ballpark. The fastest player to 45 home runs. Faster than Barry Bonds, faster than all of them. So you let this guy get...
He's better than Barry Bonds?
I didn't say better. I said, well, you think Barry Bonds is a non-issue anyway, because,
the stats say at this point in his career, he's better than Barry Bonds.
Well, what I'm saying is, as far as home runs go, he's got pop in his bat. He's got to figure a couple things out as far as his approach at the plate. And yes, he spent the entire offseason probably, he probably took 1 million swings in the offseason, getting his stance down, getting his timing right. But he's got to play live. And I
agree.
You could lock this guy down for a decent amount of time. And he's also a pretty good defensive outfielder. So I don't know why you're letting this guy sit on the bench and not playing him every single night. And I also don't know why you're not batting him 5th. The Pirates were a team last year. I think they were second or third in the league as far as the different number of different lineups. So can we get something consistent? No, I
agree. I mean, he should be batting probably 5th is about right for him.
Right.
And he should be playing most every day. I mean, 162 games, he should probably play 145.
Well, exactly.
You know why you're not getting consistency? Because they're not hiring baseball people for this team.
That's true.
They're hiring numbers people for this team. And if you read the article on The Athletic last Wednesday, it was out. It was called "Why the Pirates Keep Losing: Comfortable Being Mediocre."
Exactly.
And that's it. And that's what we're stuck with when you have an owner like Bob Nutting, and the guy's just always going to put numbers guys where he should be putting baseball guys. And if we had baseball guys in place, they would be drafting the right players, whether they were a catcher you need a catcher, so you draft a catcher. You need a pitcher, so you draft a pitcher. Instead, they just pick the guy that they think either the fans will like, or at some point they'll bring him along. He'll be good for a year or two, and we sell him off at a profit.
That's exactly right. Well, and that's why Chapman was brought in.
Right.
He was brought in because
but I'm okay with that because they know what they're going to do with him, and they already have somebody in that position. And you know what? Having middle relief is you can't have too many of those guys, right?
And he's a trade deadline piece.
Yeah, and he's a name, so they know they're not wasting money by hiring a guy like that.
Yep.
And as far as this Keller contract, I agree with Mark. He's a second or third string pitcher, and they paid him as such, and when they deal him, people will be happy to take him.
I gotta
if they do
address a couple comments.
But you do have to read that article on The Athletic. If you're not subscribed,
I actually did read it last week.
It's well written.
Yeah, and it was spot on. You're no doubt. I mean, this is a business play for those guys. It's got nothing to do with winning. T-Mel says she can't wait for the pierogies. And we did have a comment here on Rowdy. from DG. he might eat one of those racing pierogies. Now, look, that would bring people out to the park.
Pierogies are pretty strong as far as entertainment at the ballpark.
I like the idea of having a pierogi that you can eat after it's done racing.
Yeah. Now T-Mel also says, as far as the mediocrity on the Pirates, that's what we're getting from Tomlin. Why isn't it good enough for the Pirates?
Well,
I mean,
it's probably the fact that they've won 2 Super Bowls since the last time the Pirates were even in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, no. The Pirates are in the playoffs in what 13 and 14, or and
they were in the play-in game.
Yeah, whatever. All right.
I don't think the play-in game is really the playoffs.
So the Buccos report is coming back, and I am once we get a little pet. Now I was listening to a couple of the spring training games on the Fan,
getting ready.
And it's getting ready, but it's hard because literally, like if you have a team like Schwaber's Phillies, or even the Orioles now, or one of the Dodgers or whatever, yes, they sprinkle in some of their prospects and stuff, but usually you're aware of who the prospects are and what it is expected from them. So you're familiar with the names. You're like, okay, I know this guy's been in the minor leagues a couple of years, but they hope to bring him up this year. He's great at this, great at that. Man, the Pirates, I don't even know who the hell they're throwing up there. They're like, oh, this guy Brannigan or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Where are these people? Where do they get these people
I wonder if he's nephews with Laura Brannigan.
Yeah. The only
that could be a song we sing next week.
Hey, Philly's got a great new nickname, by the way. So they signed Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
He was like a solid player.
Whit.
His nickname is now WizWit.
WizWit. There you go. The old Philly cheesesteak days.
Nice.
WizWit.
That's an excellent one.
WizWit. All
Only
right.
works in Philly.
Listen, guys, thanks for watching us. We got 2 more segments we're going to go through here. If you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Instagram, thank you so much for being here. And as you can see at the bottom,
what's up, Mike?
You can catch the Sports Porch podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your
I haven't heard about
podcasts.
this controversy with uniforms.
Yeah.
You know what Mike's talking about?
Yeah, Mike says came in a little late. Have you talked about the players' issue with the new uniforms? You know what? I'll tell you what. I've heard about it. They
Are they too heavy?
No, they changed.
Too light.
They changed. They
Rip.
Schwaber's wearing one. Stand up.
You're not wearing one.
No.
The big thing is the names go kind of like in a semicircle on the back. And so it looks good for like a Castellanos looks good.
Yeah.
But when you're like, if your last name is like
Bay, G1
like,
Bay.
Yeah, like B-A-Y, it's like ridiculously small.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not only that. They switched over, to I think Nike and Fanatics. And basically there are some people that are saying the uniforms, not only are they real tight around the nether regions, they're also somewhat see-through.
Yes.
Nice.
Right.
So I'm thinking, like, if you're not manscaping, you're going to have an issue.
You just wear a cup. I mean, come on.
They all do. Yeah. Pretty
Just
much.
wear a cup.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as words are concerned, DG chimes in and says, WizWit, that's better than Mark's Nimwit. That was that he used that on the Philly show. Mike Lawrence is saying, they supposedly have see-through pants. My buddy Jeff is in from York. What's up, Jeff?
It's all about sex these days.
Yeah,
they just get with the program.
Sex sells.
Wait a minute. What do you mean these days? I've known you guys for 35 years.
These days are now.
When is it
like now as opposed to before?
Yes.
Before see-through uniforms. Now that they have see-through uniforms, just get with the program.
Kind of like an individual team.
It's about time to get out of the 1910s when they had those cotton uniforms that weighed like 40 pounds. And they had a full belt with a buckle.
Right. Yeah.
Like, come
with
on.
a buckle. God forbid you have a belt with a buckle.
Yeah. I mean, you're playing baseball. Get out there and almost naked. Why not? Go for it.
Yeah. Naked baseball.
I think it'll bring in the ladies. I think it's a good move.
You think that's what it's all about?
Oh, yeah.
Bringing the women in?
Got to bring in the ladies.
You're hanging that package out there. You think the chicks are going to be like, yeah, let's go.
Oh, dude. Chicks definitely are checking out guys' packages.
Sure.
Why do you think they watch the NFL?
Yeah. Huh.
The tight pants.
Yeah.
Oh,
you think so?
Sure.
Yeah. I've heard a few comments about that.
Yeah.
In the days.
Just
why not? Just get with it.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah. There you go. It's a great example. Why do you think?
Ask Tay-Tay?
Yep.
Why do you Tay-Tay?
My friend,
What?
Taylor Swift.
Oh, Tay-Tay. Gotcha. All right.
He really does have to get with the time.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I spend so much time in this screen and thinking about other things. I have no
Well,
idea.
it's time to start thinking about see-through pants.
Okay. All right, I'm going to put that on my shopping list.
Okay.
All right, let's move on here. Our next segment here is going to be something called What We're Watching. And what is that? Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you can't figure that out,
Amy knows.
we watch all kinds of things. Oh, and Amy May. Yeah, I guess she does like football. I'll tell you that much. She might end up liking baseball soon.
It's not the main feature, but it's there.
She used to come watch me
like
play flag football all the time.
Really? Were you wearing the tight pants?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have nightmares. So what we're watching, what we're streaming on all these different streaming services. The three of us apparently have way too much time on our hands and we watch a lot of stuff. So we want to help you out. We want to talk about what we're watching, what we like, what we don't like. And of course you can chime in. I'm going to start this week off with Hockey Jesus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm ready for this. You guys have probably not watched it.
I have watched this.
Oh,
it's a documentary.
You would have watched it. Yeah.
Unlikely me.
Yeah. There it is. And what is that documentary, Hockey Jesus?
It is American Nightmare.
It's a good story. I'll let you tell it. It's a good story. All right, go for it.
Those two people that are on the screen right now, for those of you on the radio, it's just two normal-looking white people.
Let me take a gander
California.
here. Husband and wife?
No.
Oh,
as a matter of fact, they aren't husband.
Oh,
well,
okay.
They
not when this all went down.
Oh,
right. I gotta let you go. You do.
Okay.
Yep.
All
So they actually worked together. The guy had a girlfriend where he worked.
Co-workers
broke up. She had an affair, broke him up, and this girl came on the scene and they were dating. And I guess, they had some problems like new couples might have.
like
right?
we all do.
We all do. But, she came over for a pizza one night.
Sounds like a good night.
Yeah.
It's always the pizza.
And
pepperoni.
They were trying to work things out. She was like, I'm not really comfortable with you and Andrea. And he was like, I'm really over her. I'm going through some therapy now. This is behind me. Well, at that night she gets kidnapped.
She does. Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
And he doesn't call in until the next day, like later in the day.
But it was a strange kidnapping.
3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He calls the police and say, hey, my girlfriend was kidnapped last night.
Yeah, but there's a reason why.
Sounds like an American nightmare.
Yeah.
It was.
It wasn't.
But that's not the nightmare. So it turns out that they thought there were a group of people that came in.
My nightmare is your explanation of this, but hey, whatever.
There was a group of people that came in. I'm not going to go through all the details of the kidnapping, but it made it sound like he's making this up, because it was like they used goggles, they were in wetsuits. They had like lasers pointing at them.
But he was saying he was there when she was kidnapped.
Oh yeah, and they told him to shut up, and they drugged them with NyQuil and something else so that they fell back asleep.
NyQuil does put you out.
Yeah. So and then when he woke up, they said you're not allowed to move out of this area. We got a camera on you. Don't use your phone for everything. We'll call you with the ransom money.
Oh,
yeah, it was a very complicated procedure.
It was like, it seemed like,
well, that explains not going to the police for a while.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like a good alibi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So supposedly they made him take a lie detector test. The FBI was there.
He volunteered for
it. He did, and the FBI guy got in his face and said, "I know you're lying." Well, as it turns out, the guy was not lying. This actually all happened, but the police absolutely did not believe him. And she was kidnapped and actually sexually assaulted. And they didn't believe anything these people were saying. And every time the guy that did it released her.
Yeah, she ended up getting released.
And they're like, well,
so she magically shows up.
Yeah. How did you get out so quickly? And they said this was this Gone Girl case. Have you seen the movie Gone Girl?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
So it was like that. This was like the police were saying, well, this is a Gone Girl case. She just magically did it herself to make it look bad for her boyfriend, when really they were in love and she was really kidnapped and raped. And they only found out about it after like other people like started seeing happening to the other people in
this shit came out of the woodwork
in the San Francisco area. And there was one cop
there's that San Francisco coming up.
There was one cop in particular who was like honey badger about catching this guy, and they got the evidence of her with like a strand of her hair like in this duct tape, and they linked him to her. Because they didn't really, the police never believed it until they had that one piece of evidence.
They were getting ready to charge her with like,
lying, essentially.
Yeah, so it all came out.
So it was really well done. It's only 3 episodes, and it's definitely worth it if you like that kind of thing. My wife particularly didn't care for it, especially with the sexual assault and the kidnapping.
I guess she doesn't like that kind of stuff.
No, it keeps her up at night.
I guess the question is it better than Dateline or is it Dateline?
Yeah, this is Mark's thing.
Yeah, it's Dateline.
Okay.
I thought it was better than Dateline.
Do they have Keith Morrison on the case?
No, there was a spin at the end.
Then I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I need Keith Morrison.
I did like the fact that the one police department were a bunch of bubbling idiots.
Yeah.
But the other department was like, why would you even do that? Like the way they question them and things like that. And really it's testimony to you got to have a good lawyer.
There you go.
That's the only reason she wasn't in jail, was because she had a really good lawyer.
She did have a good lawyer. So next on the list, we're going to go to me. This is something I think we've seen the last 3 weeks in a row. I am watching The Leftovers now.
Finish yet?
You can't do a double. You can't use the same thing 1 week after the next.
I didn't use it last week.
That's an insult to our fans.
I don't care.
You did use it last week.
I didn't know he used it last week.
I used it last week.
He used it.
All right.
I used it.
See?
Then my apologies.
Pay attention. Pay attention. If you weren't so busy sleeping during the show, Jay just tunes it out.
My apologies.
Honestly, since then I've finished.
Yes.
Yes. My apologies.
And apology accepted, but that's the last time ever. Yeah. So if you guys haven't been watching the show the last couple of weeks, Mark started watching The Leftovers, Steve started watching The Leftovers, and now I have started watching The Leftovers. And I will say it is absolutely worth watching, no doubt about it.
And you haven't made it to season 3 yet.
I am in. Yeah, I am now in like episode 6 or 7 of season 2, and I like literally started watching it like 3 days ago. So I'm blasted.
You're down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely
down the rabbit hole.
Definitely.
I got to tell you, man, I have always been a fan of Justin Theroux, and now you
just like his body.
He's a Klein guy.
Let's face it, the guy has 1% body.
Yeah, I do. I think he's got a great body, no doubt about it. At least he did in 2014, 15, and 16.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
He could easily wear those Pittsburgh Pirates pants.
He probably has Pirates pants. That's a new one. I like that one. You got on your Pirates pants. Hey, everybody, put on your Pirates pants. Hop on the plank and let's get on the ship and go.
There you go.
How about that?
Got it all figured out.
It's pretty good. It was a good pirate. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm pretty good.
But this is what we're watching.
That's right. That's right. So The Leftovers is great. You know what? If you're into strange happenings, conspiracy theories, and not really understanding where everything is going to go.
Supernatural.
Right. But
you don't know at the end of the last episode where it's really going.
Yes. So the point is,
no.
But sometimes those things are kind of like if the acting, the writing, and the filmography,
it is real. All that stuff is good.
It has to come together, or you're kind of like, this is stupid. But it is so well done, and I love the soundtrack. I think that. Wait!
There's some really good songs coming.
Yeah. Oh, good. I can't wait. So The Leftovers on HBO Max. All right, moving over to the Grand Schwabini. The Grand Schwabini is watching.
I can't wait.
Yes, here. Let's
more stuff neither of you will watch.
I've watched this, I think.
I'll get to your comment, DG, in a second. I'll get to your comment.
So
go ahead, Suburra Eterna. Go ahead.
Last week I presented you with Suburra.
Right. Suburra,
that is a three season of kind of a mixture of organized crime and mixture with the church, the Vatican in Rome.
Right.
It's, it is in Italian. We watch it with like the dub over in English. I know that there's
that.
Yeah, like
I could do it.
yeah, you're just kind of, you have challenges.
No, I like the subtitles. I do. I like to hear I think Italian is a beautiful language.
It is. So anyway, Suburra was phenomenal. And then so we have to jump into Suburra, which is it's kind of like going from Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul,
right?
Kind of like that, except it is moving forward, not backwards,
right?
But it's very similar, and it's got a lot of the same characters, and so it's another season. It was actually recently put out; it just came out in November. They say that they are expecting a season 2 of it, so that'll hopefully come out 24-25, end of the year, beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. I mean, it's just a continuation of a really good story with a few new characters. I will say that
drugs, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Everything's about drugs.
Everything. Drugs, violence.
Drugs and
good guys don't always win.
Yeah. Good guys don't always win.
Yeah.
And the dark side of the church.
No way.
Yes.
There's a dark side.
No way.
Yes, there's a lot going on in the Vatican.
Sounds
we're
like
not privy to.
I think the first statement
is
more appropriate.
Yes. Now I will say,
how does Amy feel about this?
Oh, she loves it.
Yeah.
She loves it.
Yeah, she's into the dark side of the Vatican.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There was, the bottom line, the one thing, I didn't love the last episode, how it ended. But sometimes you sort of need that. You sort of need an Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Your heroes that you're rooting for.
Yeah.
In organized crime, they don't always win.
I love it. How do we go from like the Italian mob and organized crime and Empire Strikes Back? I like that.
Disappointing.
I get it.
People won who you didn't want to win.
There you go. That happens all the time.
Yep.
Okay, next thing, headlines that mean something. We got about 3 minutes left on Instagram, so if they cut us off there after an hour, I want to thank everybody who watched us there. Headlines that mean something. Well, we scour the news world and we try to find headlines that actually mean something to us. I'm going to go with the Grand Schwabini. That headline.
At the Florida Man Games, big crowds cheer competitors evading police and wrestling over beer. So if you are unaware, in St. Augustine, Florida, every year, folks come from far and away in their tank tops, cut off shorts, and they arrive for a showdown that is about evading police and wrestling over beer like Olympic sports. It's promoted as the most insane athletic showdown on earth. And it's based on the state's reputation for bizarre stories involving brawling, drinking, gunfire, reptile wrangling, and other antics carrying a risk of time in jail or intensive care.
I feel a new network. I feel a new network.
This has to be
televised. Okay, so here's a couple of the events for you. Wrestling sumo style while holding pitchers of beer. Running from actual sheriff's deputies while jumping fences and avoiding obstacles.
So, but the deputies are not
real. They're actually real.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They're not chasing them for a real crime, but they had fun and participate.
Okay, but isn't it kind of a real crime?
No, this is a fun event.
So the deputies are taking part in the event, right? Not actually chasing.
No,
them.
right.
That's kind of boring.
Well, it's like wrestling. It's a little stage.
Right.
You got to stage.
And then I really like this one. I think you guys will like it. They also take a whole bunch of cash and they put it in front of a giant fan, and folks compete to scramble to grab the cash that's flying in simulated hurricane winds.
Right. That happens around here.
Now, interestingly enough,
are they enclosed or is this in an open environment?
It's an open environment.
I actually feel
I've seen the one where they put them in a
box,
chamber
a box.
and like figure out ways.
I actually feel like I've already done a lot of these. In my
So
own
just
life.
just so you know, the
reptile wrangling.
people-
I don't think that
it costs $45 to get a ticket to this.
Oh, I'm
All right.
down.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
going down. That's our next guy's trip.
I love
This past year they sold over 5,000 tickets.
Nice.
Okay,
They're making some money on it.
and
Let's go.
you know, the mayor basically just said, we love to give you know, people an opportunity to live a day in the life of a Florida man without ending up in a cop car.
So basically what they're saying is this is what Florida guys do on a regular basis.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
that
I
is
love it.
fantastic.
I love it. I do want to go back here and address this comment from DG. I completely forgot about it. Must have a mullet to compete. That's funny.
I can grow one for that.
Going back to what we're watching, DG said thoughts on True Detective Night Country. I thought it was fairly good, but not as awesome as the previous seasons. I am about 5 episodes in because the leftovers kind of
I still haven't gotten past the first episode. I haven't it's
You can
not
string them together.
it's not great enough to where it's going to override really great stuff. Like if I watched one episode and then I started the leftovers, I might not come back to it for 2 months.
Well, that's kind of what happened to me. Is I had watched the first 4 episodes.
Right.
You know, DG, I like it. I think it's good. And I agree with you. It's definitely not as good as season 1 and probably not as good as season 2. I must admit, I did not watch season 3. I'm going to go back and watch that.
Season 3 was better than 2.
Okay. So I'll definitely be watching that. All right. Moving on to the last headline of the evening, Hockey Jesus.
I found one this week.
Well, and it's actually so appropriate for Hockey Jesus.
It is. Dead man remains dead.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. There was this man, I guess, somewhere in California, the city of industry. Which I have no idea where that is.
Sure.
Obviously, it's in California.
Well, there was
That's what you said.
There was a 50-year-old gentleman that came in to a medium because he doesn't really like doctors, and he was having a stomach ache. Okay.
First thing I think of when I have a stomach ache.
Well, you know, he doesn't trust doctors. Doctors are not his thing. So he's like, hey, can you find a way to help me heal from my stomach ache? Well, the guy dies while he's there. And rather than
maybe he should have gone to the doctor.
rather than the medium immediately calling the police, his loved ones were there, and they said, well, can you try and raise him from the dead? And the medium said, sure. So they left, came back about 5 days later, and he was still dead.
Wow.
They called the police. Called the police, and the police said something about something along the lines of, there was no foul play here. It was just something that happened, and now they're going to bury him.
There's so much wrong with this whole idea here. I
just saw the headline and I was like, how? Okay, this has got to be good. And then I'm thinking, wow, just wow.
Yeah. I mean, you have a stomach ache.
You
don't go to the doctor, which a lot of us don't when we have a stomach ache. but it's bad enough. You go to a medium, and while you're there, whatever is in your stomach kills you, and your family says, hey, look, any chance you can bring them back? Instead of like rushing him to the hospital and saying, that's Pops. He always hated doctors. Let's get him in an ambulance. They're like, can we read the Bible over him and maybe you'll bring him back?
They wanted to restore the dead man's spirit. Maybe they weren't expecting his body to rise, and I guess the medium couldn't even restore his spirit.
My T-Mel on Instagram says, that's California. I'm in Nevada. My daughter is in San Diego. I've been there more times than I can count. They're jagoffs. All right. We got one more comment in here from Mike Lawrence. He says, Mark, in line with your Florida games, research the redneck games, I think in Dublin, Georgia. So maybe you need to look that up. Maybe. Okay, guys, listen, that's it for our show tonight. And as always, always.
No, you're right, Amy. They were not.
Can't tell you how grateful we are that you attend our weekly meetings. Thanks for watching the Sports Porch Pittsburgh on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram. And go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. Thanks, DG, for another entertaining show. I'll catch you guys next time. DG, you are the best. And we drop the podcast as soon as we sign off here. I'm going to be working on that, dropping the podcast. Thanks, Isabel. You're welcome. I'm going to be working on the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your freaking podcast. That was a really good one right there, Schwab.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Jeff, have a great weekend. Thanks. Grabs, thanks. Love it. I am your technical director, and I am boom. Where's the Jablonsk?